Chapter 1. First Contact. The cold expanse of the alien landscape spread out under the dull light of a distant sun. Tom, the expedition's linguist, trudged alongside Captain James, their boots crunching on the frost-coated rocks. They were on the edge of a discovery, a sensation that tingled in the chilled air. Visuals are clear, no movement detected in the perimeter, James reported through his comlink, his breath visible in the air inside his helmet. Tom adjusted his own gear, focusing his mind on the potential languages and communication methods of the alien species they were about to meet. "Let's hope they're as eager for this as we are," he said, scanning the horizon with his binoculars. The ground shook slightly underfoot, a common occurrence they had now grown accustomed to on this volatile planet. Suddenly, a sleek, silvery figure emerged from behind a nearby rock formation. It was unlike any life form documented in their briefings. Tall, with luminous skin that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "That's got to be them," Tom whispered, lowering his binoculars. James nodded, signaling to the team to stay back while he and Tom advanced. As they approached, the alien, later known to them as Zara, stood still, her large, opalescent eyes observing them intently. Tom noticed her hands were poised in what he assumed could be a greeting, or a warning. "Hello," Tom started, his voice calm and welcoming. "I'm Tom, and this is Captain James. We come in peace." Zara tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly, then relaxing. "I am Zara," her voice echoed strangely, as if it passed through water before reaching them. "You are human." James stepped forward, offering a smile beneath his helmet. "Yes, we've traveled a long way to meet your people. We hope to learn from each other." Zara's gaze shifted between the two men, then back towards her own kind, a group of similar figures now emerging into view. "This is a significant moment," she said, her voice gaining a curious inflection. "My people observe. They are cautious, as this is our first contact with your kind." Tom nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We are here to share knowledge, experiences, and hopefully friendship. Our intentions are peaceful." Zara listened, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she stepped forward, extending her hand. Tom looked at James, who gave a slight nod, and then reached out to take her hand. It was a gesture familiar to humans but new to her, Tom realized, as Zara's hand was cool and smooth, almost like touching glass. "Your gesture," Zara said, examining their handshake. "It is a symbol?" "It's a handshake," Tom explained, "a sign of peace and agreement among our people." "Interesting," Zara replied, releasing Tom's hand gently. "There is much we may learn from each other." As the alien delegation approached, Tom and James prepared to lead them back to their base camp, where the rest of the human crew awaited. Tom felt a surge of excitement mixed with a hint of nervousness. This was the beginning of something new, a dialogue that could change the course of interspecies relations. "Let's head back," James suggested, his voice optimistic. "Our teams are eager to meet, and we have a lot to discuss." As they walked, Tom and Zara continued to exchange basic information about their worlds. The landscape around them, once foreboding, now seemed less alien, a backdrop to the unfolding story of first contact between two vastly different beings, connected by curiosity and the potential for understanding. Chapter 2. Learning Curves. Inside the neutral space station designed for interspecies communication, the atmosphere was abuzz with anticipation. The hall was vast, lined with terminals and displays of both human and alien technology. Dr. Henry Lee, the human cultural anthropologist, adjusted the translator device as he approached Zara, who was examining a hologram of the Earth. "Quite different from your world, isn't it?" Henry remarked, gesturing to the rotating globe in the hologram. Zara looked up, her eyes reflecting the myriad of blues and greens of the Earth. "It is vibrant, full of life in ways we do not know. Tell me, does your ocean truly change color with the sky? It does, Henry smiled, pleased with her curiosity. It's the reflection of the sky, nature's canvas. And speaking of nature, I've heard your planet's landscapes are mostly monochromatic. Yes, varying shades of silver and blue, Zara explained, her voice tinged with a newfound interest. But we have learned to appreciate its beauty. Tom joined them, carrying a set of virtual reality headsets. Ready for a tour of Earth without leaving this station, he offered one to Zara, who took it, intrigued. As Zara experienced the virtual Earth, Tom and Henry observed her reactions, her wonder at the sight of rainforests, her astonishment at the deserts, and her visible relaxation at the images of the oceans. This is a way humans learn too, through experience, Tom noted. We find it helps us connect more deeply with our subjects of study. Zara removed the headset, her expression thoughtful. I begin to understand why your people are so driven by emotion. There is much in your world that would evoke such feelings. Dr. Lee nodded, taking notes on his digital pad. And what of your people, Zara? How do you connect with your environment? Our connections are more functional, Zara admitted. We appreciate the utility and balance of our surroundings. Emotional responses are less prioritized. It's fascinating, Dr. Lee mused. Both our species have thrived, yet our paths are so divergent. Tom chimed in, perhaps, through this exchange, we can find a middle ground. Learn from each other's strengths. The conversation shifted as they walked towards the communal area where other members of both delegations were mingling. Dr. Simon Reyes, a human sociologist, was discussing communication techniques with another of Zara's colleagues. Simon was explaining, we find that non-verbal cues are as important as verbal communication. Gestures, facial expressions, body language, all tell a story beyond words. Zara's colleague, a scientist named Jor-El, nodded. We are learning this. Our communication is primarily verbal and direct. This subtlety is new to us. As the group sat down to a prepared meal featuring dishes from both Earth and Zara's planet, the dialogue continued. Tom observed the interactions, seeing tentative bridges being built. Zara, now more relaxed, was asking questions about Earth's music and art. Henry played a soft melody on a portable speaker, explaining, music is a universal language for us. It transcends words. Zara listened, her eyes closed, absorbing the sounds. It evokes feelings, she said, almost to herself. Feelings I am just beginning to understand. As the meal ended, Tom proposed a joint project. What if we create something together? A piece of art or technology that blends our cultures and knowledge. Zara considered this, then nodded. That could be beneficial. An embodiment of our learning and cooperation. The group agreed, enthusiastic about the potential of such collaboration. As they dispersed to their respective quarters, the air was filled with a sense of purpose. They were not just representatives of their species. They were pioneers on a journey of shared knowledge and mutual growth. Chapter 3. The Gala of Galaxies. The grand hall of the Interstellar Conference Center was adorned with lights and symbols representing numerous civilizations across the galaxy. As delegations from various planets mingled, the air was filled with a cacophony of languages and the soft hum of translator devices. Tom, alongside Captain James and Dr. Henry Lee, prepared to host a segment of the evening dedicated to showcasing Earth's cultures. Never thought I'd wear a tuxedo in space, James chuckled, adjusting his bow tie. It suits you, Captain, Tom replied with a grin. Ready to show off our little blue planet? Absolutely, James affirmed. Let's make sure everyone leaves tonight with a good impression of Earth. Nearby, Zara approached with a group of her colleagues. She was dressed in a shimmering gown that reflected the ambient light, her appearance drawing curious glances from around the room. "Tom, Captain James, you both look distinguished," Zara commented, her tone indicating she had learned the compliment from her prior interactions. "Thank you, Zara. You look quite remarkable yourself," James replied, offering his arm in a gesture of courtesy as they moved toward the main stage. Dr. Lee joined them with Simon and a new member of their team, engineer Alex Turner, who had been working on a piece of collaborative technology to showcase later in the evening. "Shall we start with the Earth exhibit?" Henry suggested, leading the group to a series of displays featuring famous Earth landscapes, cultural artifacts, and historical timelines. As the guests explored the exhibits, Tom initiated a conversation with Zara about the significance of each item. "This here is a piece of the Berlin Wall," Tom explained, pointing to a small concrete fragment under protective glass. "It's a symbol of overcoming divisions, quite apt for tonight." Zara listened intently, then turned to her own group. "We have brought pieces of our planet as well, crystals from the Cliffs of Harmony. They symbolize our pursuit of balance and order." The evening progressed with presentations from other worlds, each showcasing their unique contributions to the galaxy. Music from distant planets played, and exotic dishes were served. Tom and Zara found themselves at a demonstration of traditional Earth dancing. "Would you like to try?" Tom asked, offering his hand as a slow, melodious tune began to play. "I am not familiar with your dances," Zara hesitated, but after a moment she placed her hand in his. With gentle guidance, Tom led her through the basic steps. "It's all about feeling the music and moving together," he instructed softly. As they danced, Zara began to move more fluidly, her initial awkwardness giving way to a graceful rhythm. "I understand now why dance is so cherished in your culture. It is expressive, liberating," she confessed, her voice a whisper. Meanwhile, Alex and Simon were discussing with Jor-El the potential applications of the technology they planned to unveil. "It's a hybrid engine design, using both human and alien tech," Alex explained. "It could revolutionize space travel for mixed-species crews." Jor-El nodded, clearly impressed. "The exchange of ideas tonight has been more fruitful than I anticipated." As the evening drew to a close, the group gathered around the new hybrid engine displayed at the center of the hall. Tom took a moment to address everyone. "Tonight has been about more than just sharing. It's about understanding and respecting our differences and our similarities," Tom declared. "This engine, like our gathering, symbolizes what we can achieve together." Applause filled the room, and Zara leaned over to Tom. "Thank you for this experience, for teaching me the value of your culture and your friendship." Tom smiled, feeling a profound connection not just to Zara, but to the potential for peace and unity among the stars. The Gala of Galaxies, he realized, was a perfect representation of the new horizons that awaited them all. Chapter 4. Forbidden Exploration. The surface of the alien planet stretched endlessly, painted in shades of silver and deep blue beneath an ever-clouded sky. Tom adjusted his breathing mask as he crouched near a curious crystalline formation that jutted out of the ground like jagged glass. Beside him, Zara stood observing quietly, her luminescent skin catching the faint light filtering through the clouds. "Strange place," Captain James muttered, scanning the horizon. His tone was casual, but Tom could tell the captain was on edge. They were deep in alien territory now, far beyond the established paths. "Strange but beautiful," Tom replied, running his gloved fingers lightly across the smooth crystal surface. "I've never seen anything like this." Zara stepped closer, her eyes studying the crystals as though they held a secret. "These formations are sacred to my people. They are not to be touched lightly." Tom froze and withdrew his hand. "I didn't mean to disrespect them. I'm just fascinated. You mean no harm, Zara said softly. Curiosity is a core part of your nature, I've noticed. James straightened, shouldering his equipment. Sacred or not, this area is uncharted, and I don't like us being this far from the station. What are the chances we're alone out here? Very likely, Zara replied, turning her gaze upward. My people rarely visit these regions. They consider them unnecessary, remote and uninhabitable. Tom stood and joined James. Which is exactly why we're here. Uncharted regions hold the most potential for discovery, don't they? James grunted but didn't argue. We've got another hour before the atmospheric fluctuations pick up. Let's make the most of it. The group moved forward, following Zara's lead as they navigated through a narrow canyon, its walls lined with glittering veins of deep blue minerals. The sound of their boots echoed faintly, broken occasionally by the hum of Zara's handheld scanner. What are these minerals? Tom asked, glancing over at Zara. She paused, her fingers brushing a seam in the rock. Energy conduits. They channel the planet's magnetic forces. It is why this region is both revered and feared. Too much energy in unstable hands can be destructive. Sounds like we should be careful, James muttered, eyeing the rocks suspiciously. Tom grinned. Relax, Captain. We're just looking. They emerged from the canyon into a wide clearing that took Tom's breath away. A shimmering pool of liquid, glowing faintly, sat in the center of the clearing, surrounded by the crystal formations like silent sentinels. What is this? Tom asked, stepping forward. Zara hesitated, then followed him. It is called the Mirror Pool. Our people say it reflects not what you are, but what you wish to become. James let out a low whistle. Now that's poetic. Tom knelt beside the edge, staring at his reflection rippling softly. Do you believe that? He asked Zara. Zara joined him, gazing into the pool. I do not know. We are taught to look inward through meditation and reason, not reflections. But here, I feel different. Tom suggested gently. She nodded, her voice quieter now. Yes, different. James paced a few meters away, his communicator crackling faintly. Atmospheric interferences starting early. We've got half an hour, Mac. Tom looked at Zara, her expression distant as she studied the pool. You've been different since the gala, he said. Haven't you? Zara blinked and turned to face him. What do you mean? Tom shrugged, choosing his words carefully. Back there, when we danced, you seemed free, more alive. Zara's gaze softened. It was unexpected. Your ways are unfamiliar, but they stir something within me that I cannot explain. Emotions are not meant to guide us. We are taught that they weaken our clarity. Tom frowned. Emotions don't make you weak. They're part of being alive. Without them, what's the point of all this? She tilted her head slightly, regarding him with curiosity. You speak as if emotions are essential. They are. They connect us. Make us who we are, Tom said, his voice earnest. Isn't that why you're here? To learn, to understand us. Zara looked back at the pool, her reflection shimmering. Perhaps. And yet, my people would see this as contamination. James called out from behind them, his tone sharp. Tom, we've got to move now. Tom sighed, pushing himself up. Let's go. The last thing we need is to get stuck out here. Zara lingered for a moment longer, her gaze lingering on the pool before she turned to join them. As they walked back through the canyon, James muttered, Next time we stick closer to camp. Tom fell into step beside Zara. You really believe emotions are contamination? She hesitated, her voice quiet. I was taught that they cloud our judgment. But you are different. Your emotions seem to guide you, and yet you remain steady. Tom smiled faintly. Maybe emotions aren't meant to be avoided. Maybe they're meant to be understood. Zara glanced at him, something unspoken in her eyes. Perhaps, she murmured. The wind picked up as they neared their landing site, carrying a low hum that seemed to echo through the rocks. As they stepped onto the transport platform, Tom looked back one last time at the canyon, the mirror pool now hidden beyond the twists of stone. Zara followed his gaze. What do you see when you look back? Tom considered his answer before speaking. Possibility. That's what exploration is about, seeing something new and realizing it can change everything. Zara looked at him for a long moment before responding. Perhaps you are right, Tom. Perhaps emotions are not to be feared. The transport platform hummed as it lifted them from the surface. Tom leaned back against the railing, his thoughts lingering on the strange pool and on Zara. Something was changing in her. He could feel it, and he wondered how much more the unknown would reveal before their time here ended. Chapter 5. The Revelation. The soft hum of the research station's power grid filled the silence in the main observatory. Outside the large reinforced glass panels, the alien world stretched endlessly under a cloud-choked sky, a strange glow dancing faintly on the horizon. Tom sat at one of the terminals, sifting through data streams, his focus wavering. Across the room, Zara was perched near a holographic display, her gaze distant as she studied Earth's rotating projection. "You've been staring at that for 20 minutes, Tom said lightly, pushing back his chair. "Thinking of taking a vacation?" Zara turned, her voice soft but deliberate. "I was studying your oceans again. You describe them as living things." "They kind of are," Tom replied, joining her. "Currents, storms, waves. It's all movement, like a heartbeat. You've never seen an ocean, have you?" "No," she admitted. "Our waters are static. They do not move as yours do. They reflect our order." Tom leaned against the console, arms crossed. "That explains a lot about your people. You like control." Zara tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Control is balance. Without it, we believe chaos would follow." "That's where we differ," Tom replied with a small smile. "Humans aren't afraid of a little chaos. Sometimes it leads to the best discoveries." Zara considered this. Chaos and discovery. It is an unfamiliar concept. Tom pushed off the console, his tone light but firm. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." Before she could respond, Tom gestured to Captain James, who had just entered the room. "Captain, I'm taking Zara topside for some fresh air." James raised an eyebrow. "Is this a teaching moment or another one of your let's see what happens plans?" "A little of both," Tom said with a grin. Zara looked between the two men. "Why do I feel I should be concerned?" "Because he never plans ahead," James said dryly. "Don't break anything, Tom." Outside, the sky was streaked with thin ribbons of light, an atmospheric phenomenon they had come to expect at twilight. Zara walked a few paces ahead of Tom as they traversed the ridge overlooking the plains. Tom stopped, crouching next to the uneven ground, and pulled a small container from his pack. "I brought this for you." Zara turned, curiosity etched across her face. "What is it?" Tom opened the container, revealing a small, handheld device. With a press of a button, the device began to emit soft, rhythmic sounds, a recording of ocean waves crashing against rocks. Zara froze, her glowing eyes widening slightly as the sound washed over them both. "This is your ocean?" "Yeah," Tom said quietly. "Close your eyes. Just listen." She hesitated but did as he asked, her elegant form still against the dull, silvery landscape. The waves rolled and crashed in soothing repetition, carrying with them an undeniable weight. Zora's breathing slowed as she absorbed the sound, her expression softening. "It feels alive," she whispered finally. "I can hear movement. Energy." Tom watched her carefully, his voice calm. "Now imagine standing on the shore. The wind in your face. The sand under your feet. You can taste the salt on the air, and every sound seems to pull you deeper." Zora opened her eyes, and for the first time, Tom thought he saw something break through her stoic exterior, a flicker of longing. "Why does this affect me so?" "Because it connects you to something bigger than yourself," Tom said softly. "It's not about control. It's about being part of the chaos, of something alive." Zara looked at him, her voice unsure. "And you, Tom? Do you seek this chaos?" He shrugged, a small grin tugging at his lips. "It's not about seeking it. It's about being willing to experience it when it comes." Zora's gaze lingered on him for a moment before she spoke again, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "I do not know if I can let go of what I am. My people believe emotion blinds us to purpose. But here," she gestured toward the empty plains and then to the device playing its gentle waves, "here I feel something." "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Tom replied. "Your people fear emotion, but what if it gives you clarity instead?" Zara looked back at the sound device, her expression conflicted. "To feel this strongly is unfamiliar. It is dangerous." Tom stepped closer, his tone gentle. "It's not dangerous, Zara. It's real. This is what makes us alive." For a moment, there was silence between them. The recording played on, the waves blending with the faint hum of the wind around them. Finally, Zara turned to him, her voice barely audible. "Is this why humans seek love? Connection?" Tom's breath caught slightly at the honesty in her question. "Yeah, it's part of it. Love makes us vulnerable, but it also makes us stronger. It gives us purpose." Zara took a step toward him, her gaze fixed on his face. "I do not know if I am ready to feel what you describe." "You don't have to be ready," Tom replied quietly. "You just have to let yourself experience it." The air between them seemed charged with something unspoken, an energy neither could fully name. For a long moment, neither moved. Finally, Zara turned her gaze back toward the horizon, where the last ribbons of light were beginning to fade. "I wish to learn more," she said finally, her voice softer now. "About your oceans. About your Kes." Tom smiled, his voice warm. "Then you're already on the right path." The two stood together in the fading light, the sound of Earth's oceans carrying them forward into something neither of them could fully understand. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of possibilities waiting to be uncovered. Chapter 6. The Human Kiss. The research station had grown quiet for the evening. The hum of the ventilation system was a constant backdrop, interrupted only by the soft beeps of control panels. Tom leaned back in his chair in the common room, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee. He was alone, save for the flickering lights of the holographic Earth display that Zara often lingered near. The door slid open with a faint hiss. Zara entered, her footsteps barely audible as she crossed the room. She paused at the Earth projection, studying the swirling blue oceans that Tom had described so vividly before. "You're up late," Tom said, turning to her with a tired smile. Zara looked at him, her glowing eyes calm but searching. "Your species places great importance on rest, do you not?" Tom chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "We do, but I think too much. It keeps me awake." She stepped closer, her voice even but curious. "What occupies your thoughts so persistently?" Tom shrugged. "The same things as always. This place, your people, what it all means for us. But mostly—" he trailed off for a moment. "Mostly, I wonder what you think of all this." Zara's gaze lingered on him. "What I think?" "Yeah," Tom said, setting his cup down on the table. "When we met, you were distant, detached. Now, though, it's different. You've changed." Zara's posture shifted slightly, her hands clasping together in front of her. "You are perceptive. I have changed, though I struggle to understand how." Tom gestured to the chair across from him. "Why don't you sit? We'll figure it out together." She hesitated before lowering herself into the seat, her luminous skin casting faint patterns of light on the table between them. "Tell me," Tom continued gently, "what's different?" Zara was silent for a moment, her eyes focused on the tabletop. Finally, she spoke. "It began when you showed me your music, your oceans, when I experienced your dance. These emotions you embrace are like a force I cannot stop." "That's not a bad thing," Tom replied softly. "It's like learning a new language, one that doesn't need words." She looked up at him, her expression unguarded. "It frightens me. My people would see this as weakness. They would not understand the changes within me." Tom leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "You're not weak, Zara. You're alive. What you're feeling, it's real. It's connection." Her glowing eyes held his gaze, searching him for something she couldn't yet name. "Connection," she echoed. "It is unfamiliar." "Unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong," Tom said quietly. "Sometimes the best things come when we let go of what we know." Zara studied him for a moment longer before rising suddenly to her feet. She walked toward the Earth hologram again, its colors reflecting faintly on her skin. Tom followed her, stopping a few paces away. "Why are you so sure?" she asked, her voice soft but full of something new, uncertainty, maybe vulnerability. "Why do you trust this chaos?" Tom approached carefully, his tone gentle. "Because it's the only way to really live, to feel, to be human." Zara turned to face him. "To feel as you do. It is overwhelming." "That's what makes it worth it," Tom said. "Sometimes you just have to let it happen." For a moment, silence fell between them, broken only by the soft hum of the room. Tom could see the uncertainty in her eyes, but also something deeper, something breaking free. Slowly, Zara took a step closer. "Teach me," she said quietly. Tom blinked, his voice catching slightly. "Teach you?" Zara nodded, her gaze steady despite the tension in her voice. "Teach me this connection. Show me how it begins." Tom hesitated, his heart thudding against his ribs. "Are you sure?" "I would not ask if I were not," Zara replied, her tone unwavering. Tom exhaled softly, closing the space between them. He raised his hand slowly, brushing his fingertips against her arm, where the faint luminescence of her skin pulsed slightly at the contact. "Human connection starts with trust," he said gently, his voice low. "And with touch." Zara watched him intently, her body still as he placed his other hand softly on her shoulder. The sensation was new, electric, and he felt her shiver under his touch. "Your skin," she murmured. "It is warm." "And yours is like starlight," Tom replied softly, his fingers tracing faint patterns where their worlds met. She tilted her head, her voice barely audible. "And then—" Tom swallowed, his voice steady but heavy with meaning. "Then we close the distance." Slowly, he leaned in, his movements deliberate, giving her time to pull away. Zara didn't move. Her glowing eyes remained locked on his until, at last, he pressed his lips gently against hers. The kiss was cautious at first, soft, careful, a moment shared across the gulf of two worlds. But then something shifted. Zara gasped quietly against his mouth, and her hands rose to his chest, fingers trembling as they touched him. Tom pulled back slightly, searching her face. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, as though alive with new energy. "This is," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "I cannot explain it." "You don't have to," Tom replied, brushing a strand of her shimmering hair back. "Just feel it." Zara closed her eyes, leaning in again, and this time the kiss was deeper, tentative but full of a shared understanding. When they parted again, her breathing was uneven, her hands still resting against him. "I feel as though something inside me has awakened," Zara said quietly. Tom smiled softly, his forehead resting against hers. "Sometimes that's all it takes." She opened her eyes, her voice trembling slightly. "Is this what it means to be human?" Tom met her gaze, his words warm and steady. "It's what it means to love." Zara didn't answer, but her glowing eyes softened, and for the first time Tom saw her truly unguarded. Neither spoke as the soft hum of the room surrounded them, the weight of the moment hanging between them like the gravity of a new world. And there, in the silence, two souls, alien and human, found something entirely new: connection. Chapter 7. A Soul Awakened. The research station felt different in the days that followed. The air between Tom and Zara carried a charge, unspoken but palpable, like the quiet before a storm. They spoke more frequently, walked the outer ridges of the alien plains together, and spent late evenings discussing topics neither of them had imagined sharing. For Zara, the world had shifted. Emotions she had been taught to suppress now stirred in her constantly, new, overwhelming, and uncontrollable. Tom noticed the changes in her, how her gaze lingered on him longer, her questions becoming more personal. Now, they stood at the edge of a plateau that overlooked the shimmering horizon of her planet. The silver plains below rippled faintly, like molten glass under an unseen breeze. "Have you ever stood still and listened here?" Zara asked softly. Tom looked over at her, surprised by her reflective tone. "Listened? To what?" "To the silence," she replied, her glowing eyes fixed on the plains. "Our world is quiet, no crashing oceans, no wind howling through forests. Silence is the only constant." Tom tilted his head, taking in the quiet around them. It was heavy, stretching infinitely, unlike the soft background noise humans were used to. "I guess humans don't handle silence well. We always fill it with something. Noise, voices, music. We're afraid of what we might hear otherwise." Zara turned her head toward him. "And what do you think you would hear?" Tom shrugged, meeting her gaze. "Ourselves, probably. The things we avoid. Our doubts. Our feelings." Zara regarded him for a moment, her face unreadable. "I think I am hearing myself now." He frowned gently. "And what do you hear?" She hesitated, then looked away, her voice low. "Change." "Change isn't something to fear, Zara," Tom replied softly. "Is it not?" she asked, a hint of conflict in her tone. "My people would see this connection I feel as dangerous. Unnecessary." Tom sighed and turned fully toward her. "Why do you think that is? What are they so afraid of?" She considered his question, her glowing skin catching the pale light of the horizon. "Emotion leads to unpredictability, to chaos. That is what they teach us. Our society thrives on order, control, and purpose. And do you feel purpose now?" Tom asked, stepping closer. Zara looked up at him, her expression softer now, more vulnerable. I do not know what I feel, only that I cannot stop it. When you touched me, when you kissed me, she paused, as though testing the words aloud. Something changed within me. I feel as though I have awoken from a long dream. Tom smiled faintly. Maybe you're just starting to see what's possible. Zara held his gaze, her voice quieter now. How can you embrace something so uncertain, so uncontrollable? Because that's what life is, Zara. It's messy. It's unpredictable. But that's what makes it beautiful, Tom replied gently. You don't have to know all the answers. You just have to let yourself experience it. Zara turned away again, staring back at the horizon, her arms folding lightly across her chest. I fear that if I embrace this, I will not be able to go back. Maybe you're not meant to, Tom said softly. Maybe there's something better waiting. Zara's shoulders tensed, but she did not pull away when he stepped closer and placed a hand gently on her arm. She turned back to him, the glow of her skin pulsing faintly where he touched her. I do not understand how you are so sure, she murmured. I'm not, Tom admitted with a faint laugh. Humans aren't always sure. We take risks. We follow what feels right, even when we don't know where it'll lead. Zara tilted her head, her glowing eyes searching his face. And what feels right to you, Tom? He met her gaze steadily, his voice quiet but firm. Being here. With you. Zara's expression flickered, as though something inside her cracked open. She stepped closer to him, her voice barely audible. Why do you do this to me? Tom smiled faintly. I'm not doing anything to you, Zara. This is just us. Her glowing hands rose hesitantly to his chest, trembling faintly. I do not know how to stop feeling this way. Then don't, Tom whispered. She looked at him, something breaking through the careful control she had always worn like armor. It frightens me. Tom leaned in, his voice steady. It's okay to be afraid. I'm here. The distance between them disappeared, and Zara's lips met his. It wasn't the hesitant kiss of their first time. It was deeper, full of a longing neither of them could deny any more. Tom wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close as her hands gripped him tightly, as though anchoring herself to the moment. When they finally pulled apart, Zara's breathing was unsteady, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. You make me feel alive, she whispered. Tom brushed a strand of her shimmering hair back, his voice soft. Because you are. More than you've ever allowed yourself to be. Zara rested her forehead against his, her voice quiet but determined. I cannot go back to what I was. Tom smiled gently. Then don't. Move forward. Let yourself feel. She closed her eyes, her hands still resting on his chest. This connection. It feels as though it is part of me now. It is, Tom said simply. And it's real. The silence stretched between them again, but this time it was full, not empty. Two souls finding a place where they no longer had to hide. Outside, the alien horizon glimmered faintly, as though even the world itself recognized the shift between them. I think I understand now, Zara murmured, her voice full of something fragile but certain. Tom tilted her chin up slightly, his voice warm. Good. Because this is just the beginning. Zara smiled faintly, and for the first time, Tom saw her truly unguarded, unafraid. The connection between them no longer felt strange or forbidden. It felt inevitable. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. The sun, if it could be called that, hovered low on the horizon of Zara's world, casting an ethereal glow across the plains. The silvery landscape shimmered, as though the planet itself sensed something new unfolding. The research station bustled quietly in the background as humans and Zara's species prepared for the formal conference. Tom stood at the edge of the platform, watching the horizon stretch endlessly. Captain James approached, adjusting the collar of his formal uniform. "You ready for this?" Tom smirked, hands in his pockets. "I don't think ready is the right word. But it's happening, whether we like it or not." James chuckled. "You've definitely made an impression on her and her people. Let's just hope it doesn't come back to bite us." "It won't," Tom replied with quiet confidence. "Change starts small. They'll understand in time." Behind them, the heavy doors of the station slid open, and Zara appeared. Her presence, as always, was captivating. Her gown, a shimmering garment that reflected the faint colors of the light, flowed around her, almost as if it were alive. She paused as she saw Tom, her eyes glowing faintly. "You look great," Tom said as he approached her. "I am uncertain of this attire," Zara admitted, her voice soft. "It does not feel like me." Tom smiled. "Sometimes new beginnings feel strange at first. But they're worth it." She nodded slowly, stepping closer. "Do you think they will listen?" "They will," Tom replied, his tone steady. "Because they'll see what we've already seen, that we can learn from each other." Zara studied him for a moment, the tension in her shoulders softening. "And what if they reject it? Reject us?" "Then we keep trying," Tom said firmly. "What we've started here matters, Zara. And it's only the beginning." She looked at him for a long moment before offering a faint smile. "Your certainty. It comforts me." "Good," Tom said softly. "You're not alone in this. I'm here." The conference room was a blend of human and alien design, curved walls of silvery material juxtaposed with screens and panels of Earth technology. Delegates from Zara's people sat on one side, their stoic expressions betraying no emotion. The human delegation, including Captain James, Dr. Lee, and Tom, sat on the other, their curiosity more visible. The air hummed with tension as Zara stepped forward to address the room. The subtle glow of her skin pulsed faintly, a sign, Tom knew, of her nervousness. He caught her eye, offering a slight nod of reassurance. Zara took a breath, steadying herself, and began. "For generations, my people have valued order above all else. Emotion, connection, these were seen as distractions, paths that led only to chaos." A faint murmur spread through her delegation, but she continued, her voice growing stronger. "Yet here, with these humans, I have come to see something we have ignored. Emotion is not weakness. Connection is not a threat. It is life." The room fell silent. The alien delegates exchanged glances, their skepticism clear, but Zara pressed on. "I have seen their world," she said, gesturing to the holographic display of Earth behind her. "I have felt their music, their passion, their ability to embrace the unpredictable. They live fully, not despite their emotions, but because of them." Her words hung in the air like a weight. Tom watched the alien delegates carefully, noting their uncertainty, but also their curiosity. He could see the cracks forming in their rigid beliefs. A voice from Zara's side broke the silence. It was Jor-El, one of the senior scientists. "You speak as though you have abandoned our ways. Are you no longer one of us?" Zara turned to him, her glowing eyes steady. "I am still one of you. But I am more than I was. I have embraced something new." She glanced briefly at Tom before continuing. "We cannot remain stagnant out of fear. We must grow, learn, from them and from ourselves." Dr. Henry Lee stepped forward then, addressing the room. "What Zara is saying, what we have all discovered here, is that our species, different as we are, can thrive together. Not through domination, not through control, but through understanding. Jor-El's gaze flicked to Tom. "And you, human, what have you taught her that could be so transformative?" Tom stepped forward, meeting the scientist's stare without flinching. "I didn't teach her anything that wasn't already there. Zara made this choice for herself." He turned to face the room. "And that's what humanity brings. Possibility. A willingness to take risks, to embrace the unknown. That's how we grow." The murmurs grew louder, the alien delegation clearly divided, but Tom focused on Zara. She stood tall, unwavering, her glow steady as she waited for their response. Finally, an elder delegate stood, his voice slow and deliberate. "Your words are unfamiliar, but they are not without truth. Perhaps it is time we listen." Zara exhaled softly, relief flickering in her eyes. Tom allowed himself a faint smile as the tension in the room began to ease. Later, as the sun dipped low again, Tom and Zara stood outside the station, overlooking the silver plains. The wind was soft, carrying a faint hum through the air. "You did it," Tom said, his voice warm. "We did it," Zara corrected, turning to him. "I would not have had the courage without you." Tom smiled faintly, stepping closer. "You had it all along. You just needed someone to remind you." Zara looked at him, her glowing eyes softening. "And what now, Tom? What comes next?" He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against her shimmering skin. "Now we keep moving forward. Together." Zara's lips curved into a small smile, and she leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "Together," she whispered. As the light faded from the horizon, the silence of her world no longer felt empty. It was full of possibility, of connection, of something entirely new. Two species, two souls, finding their place in the vast unknown, one step at a time.